Now that we've run our replication job a few times, we can view our replicas in the Veeam console. Under the Backup and Replication tab, click the Replicas icon on the left-hand side of the screen. This lists all of our replicas as well as the restore points available for each server. Back on the left-hand side, under the Replica icon, is the Ready icon. This view lists replicas that are able to be failed over right now. It is possible that a server is currently being replicated or had a failed snapshot on its last replication job. When this happens, that replica will be listed under the Replicas view, but not under the Ready view. Right-clicking on a replica allows you to conduct a failover of this individual server, plan for a failover operation in the future for this server, or add the server to an existing or new failover plan. You can also restore guest OS files if this is a Windows server, as well as delete the replica if needed. Failing over a server in this manner is known as a partial failover. This is done when only one or a few servers have been impacted, but the rest of your infrastructure and your Veeam server is still online. In this case, Veeam will fail over just the selected servers, and once complete, will power on the Veeam Network Extension appliance on the source side. This appliance will connect to the Veeam Network appliance at iland and create a Layer 2 bridge between your production VMs and the replicas at iland. So once this partial failover is complete, you should be able to communicate with the failed over server internally as if it was still in your virtual data center. If you are not using the Veeam Network appliance, the replica will use your third-party firewall for connectivity. Keep in mind that a partial failover is only possible if your Veeam server is still online and accessible. But what happens if your entire site goes down, including access to your Veeam server? Well, that's where the Veeam failover plan and Veeam's Web GUI come into play. The failover plan lets you organize a full site failover into one object, as well as making a failover available to you even when the Veeam server is offline. While still in the replicas view, click the failover plan button at the top right and then choose Cloud VMware. First, let's give the plan a name. I like to create at least one plan that includes all of my replicas, and I'll just name this my master failover plan. Click Next, and then we'll click Add VM at the top right. You can select the job name to include all servers replicated in that job, or you can expand it and select individual VMs. And in my lab, I only have one job, but you can also select multiple jobs or VMs in different jobs. Once the VMs are added, we can hit Next. Under Default Gateways, we're able to configure the default gateway to be used by the replica during a failover. In my first video, we configured the default gateway when adding the service provider. However, you can make any changes here. You can also select to allow access between failover networks with this checkbox, but I'm just going to leave this unchecked now, and we can go ahead and hit Next. If you're using the Veeam Network appliance, we can use this last page to configure Nat Rules for our replicas. If we hit the Add button, we can click on Add VM here to select our VM. I'm going to set up test windows, and I'm basically going to create a RDP rule to this box. And first I'll need to decide what IP to use, and these IP addresses will be provided to you by an Island project manager. I'll just use this .135 IP and then set my port to 3389 to allow RDP. Then I'll select the internal IP address of my Windows server and keep the same 3389 port for RDP. Then I'll just add a little description here just to summarize what my rule here is doing. I'll hit OK, and then I'm going to hit Add to add a new rule for SSH into my Ubuntu server. And then I'm just going to pick the other IP here to use. Now, an important caveat to note here about the Veeam Network appliance is that it has reserved port 22 publicly. So we're unable to make a NAT rule using port 22 on our side. So in this rule, I'm also going to use port translation to translate port 2222 to just port 22 internally. You may also see that some Linux servers do not import the IP automatically. If that happens, you can just type it in manually here, and then we'll set our internal port to 22 for our SSH access. It's important to create these NAT rules, as this will be your only way to access the replica servers during a failover. At this time, only Island engineers are able to view and manage your replicas from the VMware level. We'll go ahead and hit Next here to the summary page, and then we'll click Finish to close out the wizard. And then we can check out the Veen Web Gui. You'll be given login information to this from your Island project manager. With the Veeam Failover plan and web console, you're able to start a failover even if your Veeam server is down or inaccessible. In the next video, we will walk through running a partial failover, a full failover with the failover plan, and failing back to the production site.